Ladies and gentlemen, today we are going to delve into a topic that affects many but is often misunderstood: the marks of a witch. A witch, in this context, represents not just someone who practices dark arts, but anyone who seeks to manipulate, control, and disrupt the lives of others through unseen forces. We are not talking about magic or potions. We are talking about spiritual manipulation, deception, and the subtle tactics that are used to destroy lives. I want you to listen carefully, because these marks are not always obvious at first glance. They manifest in the form of behavior, influence, and spiritual affliction that can tear apart families, communities, and even nations. A witch seeks to control and dominate situations and individuals by manipulating unseen forces. They wield influence over people's lives, using subtle tactics to gain control over their thoughts, emotions, and actions. The essence of manipulation is to work behind the scenes, pulling strings without others even being aware of the control being exerted. In many ways, it's the power of suggestion, the power of influence that turns the will of others to serve one's own agenda. These forces can be invisible, working through the atmosphere of emotions, words, or even body language. A witch does not necessarily need to be physically present to affect someone. Their influence can travel through words, creating feelings of guilt, fear, or even admiration, which slowly begin to mold the thoughts of the person they seek to control. Manipulation is not always overt. It often begins with a small seed of doubt or fear. It may start with innocent questions or suggestions that make the person second-guess their decisions or beliefs. A witch knows how to carefully plant these seeds and water them until the person begins to act in ways they might not have otherwise, all the while believing it is their own decision. Through emotional manipulation, they create dependencies, fostering an environment where the individual feels compelled to turn to them for validation or direction. They use subtle tactics, such as guilt tripping, isolation, or flattering, to keep others under their influence. Sometimes a witch may even disguise their manipulation as a form of help, making others believe they are acting out of kindness, only to use their dependency as a tool of control. A person being manipulated begins to believe that their own actions, their own decisions, are somehow not enough, and that they need the witch's validation to function properly. This constant reinforcement of dependency slowly strips the person of their autonomy and turns their decisions into a mere echo of what the witch desires. This form of power is not confined to any specific type of person or role. A witch could be anyone who seeks control, whether through leadership, personal relationships, or societal influence. The mark of a witch in this context is not limited to a physical form. It is the unseen hand that guides decisions, thoughts, and even destinies through manipulation. It's about creating an environment where the individual no longer trusts their own judgment, but relies on the twisted suggestions of the manipulator. Once a person's thoughts and emotions are under control, the witch's next move is to gain control over their actions. By molding thoughts and emotions, they create an atmosphere where a person feels compelled to act in alignment with the manipulator's desires, whether consciously or unconsciously. This kind of power creates an illusion of choice, where individuals believe they are still making decisions for themselves. But in reality, they are simply following a predetermined course set by the witch. Over time, the subtle influence becomes a dominant force in the life of the manipulated individual. Their behavior, their choices, and even their beliefs become increasingly shaped by the witch's power. They may be made to question their own self-worth, their goals, or even their identity. The witch feeds off this power, thriving as the individual loses more and more control over their own destiny. They are no longer the captain of their own ship. They are simply a passenger, sailing wherever the witch's influence leads them. What makes this kind of manipulation so dangerous is its stealth. Unlike physical force or threats, the power exerted by a witch works on a deeper, emotional, and psychological level. It affects the very core of an individual, subtly altering their worldview and behaviors without them even realizing it. It is through this unseen manipulation that a witch can wreak havoc in a person's life. But the danger does not end there. The witch, with this power begins to expand their influence, affecting not just the individual but entire groups or communities. As more people fall under their spell, a network of influence is created, enabling the witch to shape the thoughts, emotions, and actions of many. This kind of power can spread through communities like wildfire, often leaving destruction in its wake. The manipulated individuals, now isolated in their beliefs and behaviors, become pawns in the hands of a witch who seeks to maintain their control over them. The manipulation of power is often accompanied by isolation from those who would help the individual see the truth. A witch will attempt to distance their victims from other people who could expose the lies and manipulation. Whether through gossip, sowing distrust, or outright rejection of others, the witch keeps the individual isolated, making it more difficult for them to seek help or even see the situation for what it truly is. This form of power is not just about controlling others for personal gain, it is about stripping them of their autonomy, their identity, and their ability to think independently. The witch knows that true power lies in making others feel weak, uncertain, and incapable of standing on their own. As the witch's power grows, so does the individual's dependence on them. Over time, the individual becomes trapped, unable to escape the manipulative grip that holds them. Ultimately, the manipulation of power is a form of control that is subtle, deceptive, and deeply damaging. It starts small with quiet suggestions, and over time it grows to dominate every aspect of an individual's life. The most dangerous part of this manipulation is that the victim often believes they are acting of their own free will, when in reality, they are simply being guided by the unseen force of the witch's influence. Recognizing this manipulation is the first step to breaking free from its grip and reclaiming one's true power. One of the most dangerous traits of a witch is their ability to deceive. Deception is a powerful tool, and a witch wields it with precision, often masking their true intentions with layers of falsehoods. They understand that the foundation of manipulation lies in the ability to twist the truth, creating a web of lies that entraps those who trust them. A witch does not simply tell outright lies, they craft false realities that appear convincing, wrapping their lies in half-truths and distorted facts. They know how to present themselves in a way that makes them appear trustworthy and reliable, often using charm or empathy to lure people in. This is where the danger lies. A person who is deceived by a witch does not see the truth until it is too late. In the world of a witch, nothing is as it seems. They are masters of concealment, carefully crafting situations and stories that obscure their true intentions. The deception is not always direct. Sometimes it is the omission of vital information or the creation of an illusion. A witch operates in secrecy, carefully controlling what others know while withholding the most important pieces of the puzzle. Through this concealment, they weave a narrative that serves their own purposes, often at the expense of those around them. What makes this deception so insidious is its ability to reshape reality. A witch doesn't just lie, they create a false reality, one that people can believe in because it is designed to fit their desires, fears, and expectations. They know how to tap into the deepest emotions, using these vulnerabilities to construct a world that feels real. Through these manipulations, the witch steers people toward decisions and actions that serve their hidden agenda. They plant seeds of doubt, confusion, and insecurity, making it difficult for the deceived individual to see through the false narrative being presented to them. A witch thrives in a world of lies because lies are like shadows that obscure the truth. The more lies they tell, the more control they gain, for each lie they tell pushes the victim further away from reality, causing them to question what they once knew to be true. Lies are often wrapped in a cloak of persuasion, making them seem harmless or even benevolent. They may be told to justify actions or to protect someone from the harsh truth. But in reality, the lies only deepen the victim's entanglement in the witch's control. Deception also thrives because it creates division. A witch uses lies not only to manipulate individuals but to create confusion between people. They know how to plant discord, sowing mistrust and misunderstanding among families, friends, or communities. By feeding people false information about others, a witch can turn allies into enemies, create rifts where there were once bonds, and tear down relationships that were once strong. The ultimate goal of a witch's deception is to weaken unity, for where there is division, there is an opportunity for control. Another aspect of deception is how it works over time. A witch doesn't simply deceive once and be done with it. Deception is a long game. A witch continuously feeds lies, each one building on the last. They know that people are more likely to believe lies if they are consistent, so they keep the false narrative going, never revealing the truth. These ongoing lies trap the individual in a cycle of confusion, constantly questioning what is real and what is not. Over time, the deceived person begins to lose their grip on the truth, becoming more dependent on the witch to tell them what is real. The real danger of deception is that it can destroy a person's sense of self. As the lies build up, the individual begins to doubt their own judgment, their own experiences, and their own understanding of the world. A witch knows how to manipulate the perception of reality so effectively that the person becomes disconnected from their own truth. They no longer trust themselves because they have been taught to rely on the false reality that the witch has created. This form of deception leads not just to confusion, but to self-doubt, eroding a person's confidence and sense of identity. Deception also has a spiritual dimension. A witch's lies are not merely mental or emotional, they reach deep into the spirit. When a person is deceived, they are often led away from their true purpose and their divine calling. The lies create spiritual bondage, where the individual is misled about their worth, their destiny, and their connection to a higher power. The lies about identity, value, and purpose cause a person to stray from the truth of who they are meant to be, leading them to live in confusion, fear, and insecurity. The witch thrives on this spiritual blindness, for it is through lies that they keep their victims in a state of spiritual oppression. To break free from this deception, one must seek truth. Truth is the light that exposes the darkness of lies. It is the lens through which reality can be seen clearly. The witch relies on the ignorance of others to maintain their control, but when truth is revealed, the deception unravels. The lies lose their power when the truth is embraced. It is essential for anyone caught in the web of a witch's deception to seek clarity, to question what they have been told, and to turn to a higher source of truth that transcends the lies that have been planted. Only then can they begin to reclaim their understanding of reality and free themselves from the grip of deception. Witches often work with a hidden purpose, concealing their true intentions under the guise of good. Their actions, though seemingly harmless, are designed to fulfill a personal or dark objective, often at the expense of others. This unseen agenda is what makes the witch's influence so dangerous, for it operates beneath the surface, hiding its true nature behind a facade of kindness, concern, or helpfulness. At first glance, the witch's actions may seem generous or well-intentioned, but beneath that exterior lies a deeper, darker purpose. The key to understanding the unseen agenda is recognizing that everything a witch does is calculated. They do not act on impulse or in a straightforward manner. Instead, every move is strategically planned to advance their hidden goal. The witch is aware that their true intentions cannot be revealed, as they would immediately expose the deception. Thus, they craft a narrative that presents their actions in a favorable light, often aligning themselves with what others believe is good or just. This way, they can operate without suspicion, gradually leading people down a path that serves their own agenda. The witch's ability to hide their agenda is one of their most powerful tools. They work in the shadows, and their true motives are obscured by layers of misdirection. This might manifest in a seemingly innocent act of kindness, such as offering help or advice, which is actually a way to manipulate others into a vulnerable position. By gaining trust and seeming to act in the best interests of those around them, the witch slowly positions themselves to carry out their hidden plan. What seems like a gesture of goodwill becomes the vehicle for a much darker purpose. The unseen agenda is often a slow, insidious process. It doesn't demand immediate results, and it doesn't reveal its full nature until it's too late. The witch understands that by taking small steps, they can gradually influence others without raising suspicion. Each seemingly harmless action leads the individual or group closer to the witch's desired outcome. Whether it's gaining influence over a person's decisions, manipulating situations to their advantage, or even causing harm to others in the long term, the witch's hidden agenda is always in motion. And because it's disguised as something good or neutral, it's often overlooked or misunderstood by those who are caught in its web. What makes this unseen agenda even more dangerous is that it is not always immediately apparent. The witch may act in ways that appear completely innocent or even virtuous, but their true intentions are hidden just beneath the surface. This can create a sense of false security for those around them. They begin to trust the witch, believing that they are genuinely acting out of kindness or goodwill. The witch knows that trust is a powerful tool, and they use it to their advantage, gradually gaining more influence and control over the lives of those around them. The nature of the unseen agenda also means that its consequences are often delayed. The harm caused by the witch's actions may not be immediately visible, but over time the effects begin to show. Relationships may begin to unravel, decisions may turn out to be harmful, or lives may take unexpected and unfortunate turns, all because of the witch's long-term plan. The witch's true intentions, however, are rarely revealed until the damage is done. By then, it's often too late for those affected to undo the harm that has been done. This hidden purpose is not always driven by malice in the traditional sense, but rather by a deep desire for control, power, or personal gain. The witch is often motivated by a need to manipulate others for their own benefit, whether it be for financial gain, emotional validation, or a sense of superiority. They view others as tools to be used, never fully recognizing the value or autonomy of those they seek to control. In this way, the unseen agenda is not just about fulfilling a personal desire, it is about dehumanizing others, reducing them to mere instruments in the witch's pursuit of power. One of the most insidious aspects of the witch's unseen agenda is the way they exploit the good intentions of others. They may present themselves as someone who is working for the greater good, someone who is fighting for justice or truth. Yet their true motives are to exploit these very ideals for their own gain. They manipulate others' passions, fears, and desires to further their own cause, often causing those around them to act against their best interests without even realizing it. As the witch's agenda unfolds, they create a web of lies, misdirection, and manipulation. They draw others in with promises of security, happiness, or success, all the while using them as pawns in a much larger, more sinister scheme. The witch may even go as far as to create division among those who might otherwise resist them, turning allies into enemies and encouraging distrust among people who should be working together. By sowing division, they further isolate their victims, making it easier for them to manipulate each individual alone, without support or a clear perspective. The greatest defense against the witch's unseen agenda is awareness. It is crucial to recognize when actions, words, or intentions don't align with the truth, and to question motives that seem hidden or unclear. While a witch may be skilled at hiding their true purpose, those who are vigilant and discerning can spot the signs. Look for inconsistencies, trust your instincts, and remember that not everything that glitters is gold. The unseen agenda is a hidden threat, but it can be uncovered when the veil of deception is pierced, and when people stand together to protect each other from the manipulations of those who work in secret for their own gain. Witches create confusion and turmoil. Their very presence stirs unrest and discord, disrupting harmony, peace, and unity. Wherever they go, chaos follows because they feed on division. A witch's primary weapon is their ability to sow strife, turning calm waters into stormy seas. They understand that peace is a fragile thing, and by causing disruption, they can weaken the bonds that hold individuals, families, and even entire communities together. The witch doesn't just create external conflict, they often stir internal battles within individuals, causing confusion, doubt, and fear. It is through these disturbances that they gain power, for division is a source of energy that they can feed on. A witch knows that peace is not just the absence of conflict, but the presence of unity and understanding. When people are united, they are strong. But when a witch is involved, unity becomes fragmented. The witch knows how to exploit weaknesses in relationships, how to turn allies into adversaries, and how to manipulate emotions to create friction. This is done through subtle actions, often under the guise of concern or advice, but the end result is always the same: disruption. They might stir up jealousy, misunderstandings, or disagreements, causing individuals to question each other, to doubt one another's intentions. The witch's influence makes it hard to know who to trust, and this uncertainty is what fuels division. One of the key ways witches disrupt peace is by creating confusion. They spread misinformation or half-truths that make people question their own understanding of situations. What was once clear becomes clouded, and decisions that were once easy become difficult. This uncertainty causes fear, and fear breeds division. When people are afraid, they are less likely to work together and more likely to turn on each other. The witch feeds off this fear, knowing that it further drives people apart and makes them easier to manipulate. As confusion spreads, unity breaks down, and the witch's power grows. A witch's presence can be a destabilizing force. They don't need to engage in direct conflict, they only need to be present, and the tension that follows is enough to throw everything into disarray. Their mere words or actions can spark arguments or create rifts where none existed before. They have a way of making even the most trivial issues seem urgent, pushing people to react impulsively rather than thoughtfully. The chaos they create often spirals out of control, as those caught in the turmoil find it difficult to restore order. The relationships falter, trust erodes, and any sense of peace or stability is shattered. This disruption is not random. A witch is intentional in their efforts to break down peace. They understand that peace and unity are powerful, but only when people are aligned with one another. The witch knows that divided people are weak and easier to control. This is why they target the very things that hold communities and relationships together: communication, trust, and shared purpose. By breaking down these pillars, they ensure that the collective strength of a group is diminished, making them more susceptible to manipulation. At its core, a witch's disruption of peace is about creating an environment where individuals are no longer able to think clearly or act in their best interests. Confusion and division cloud judgment, making it difficult for people to discern truth from lies, right from wrong. They become trapped in a cycle of conflict, each person more concerned with defending their own position than seeking common ground. In this environment, the witch thrives, as it is through division that they can maintain control and power. A witch's ability to disrupt peace also extends beyond interpersonal relationships. They can create larger-scale chaos within organizations, communities, or even nations. They use their influence to stoke divisions, feeding on the fears and insecurities of people. Whether it's through spreading rumors, creating competition, or playing on existing tensions, the witch knows how to drive wedges between people. Once division is established, it becomes much easier to manipulate and control the individuals involved, for they are no longer united by a common goal or vision. The witch's influence has fractured their unity, and now they are vulnerable to being steered in whatever direction the witch desires. This disruption of peace often leads to a sense of spiritual unrest. Where there is peace, there is clarity and purpose. But where there is division, there is confusion, and this confusion creates a spiritual void. The witch knows that by stirring up strife and discord, they can cause people to lose sight of their true purpose. When people are divided, they are distracted by petty arguments, by emotions that cloud their judgment, and by conflicts that prevent them from focusing on their greater purpose. This spiritual unrest weakens individuals and communities, making it easier for the witch to control their actions. The danger of this disruption lies in how it spreads. Once the peace is disrupted, it doesn't take much for that turmoil to spread like wildfire. One person's anger or confusion can quickly ignite the emotions of others, and soon the entire environment is filled with unrest. The witch's influence amplifies these emotions, turning them into uncontrollable forces that can tear apart relationships, families, and entire communities. The more the witch feeds on division, the more entrenched the chaos becomes, and the harder it is to restore harmony. To overcome the disruption of peace caused by a witch, it is essential to recognize the signs of discord and division. It requires a collective effort to reestablish trust, communication, and unity. Those affected must work together, setting aside differences and refocusing on what unites them. In the face of a witch's disruption, the only way to restore peace is through mutual understanding, forgiveness, and a shared commitment to healing. Only when individuals and groups come together with a renewed sense of purpose can they overcome the chaos and reclaim the peace that was once theirs. At the core of a witch's influence is the ability to afflict people spiritually. Their dark powers are aimed at weakening the spirit, causing individuals to live in bondage, fear, and despair, far from their divine purpose. A witch does not simply affect the body or the mind, they strike at the very essence of a person, targeting the soul and spirit. Through subtle means, they create a spiritual oppression that holds individuals captive, chaining them to a cycle of despair and confusion. The witch understands that if the spirit is weakened, everything else in a person's life becomes vulnerable to manipulation. The power of a witch is in their ability to create spiritual affliction through spiritual forces that are often unseen but deeply felt. Their presence in a person's life may not always be recognized, but the effects are devastating. The witch can use fear, anxiety, guilt, and shame as tools to attack the spirit. These emotions serve as chains that bind a person's spiritual life, causing them to question their worth, their purpose, and their relationship with the divine. Fear, in particular, is a potent weapon, for it paralyzes the soul, preventing it from stepping into its true power and potential. When fear takes root, it causes a person to abandon their faith and belief in the divine, leaving them spiritually vulnerable and disconnected from their higher calling. Spiritual affliction can also manifest as a sense of hopelessness. A witch works in darkness, seeking to isolate individuals from their true source of strength. By sowing seeds of doubt about one's purpose or future, they create an internal environment of despair. People begin to believe that their lives are meaningless, that they are destined for failure, or that their struggles will never end. This mindset becomes a spiritual trap, where individuals feel as if they are caught in an unbreakable cycle, unable to rise above their circumstances. The witch's influence feeds off this despair, perpetuating the belief that escape is impossible. One of the most devastating aspects of spiritual affliction is the way it distances individuals from their divine purpose. Every person is created with a unique calling, a destiny that aligns with their spiritual nature. However, when a witch afflicts the spirit, they cause people to lose sight of this divine purpose. The individual becomes distracted by their fears, their doubts, and their confusion, all of which cloud their ability to recognize their true potential. They may begin to settle for a life of mediocrity or despair, convinced that they are unworthy or incapable of fulfilling their higher purpose. The witch, in this case, accomplishes their goal. They divert the person from their divine calling, keeping them trapped in a cycle of spiritual stagnation. The witch's influence also brings about spiritual bondage. Instead of living in the freedom that comes with knowing and embracing their true purpose, individuals under the witch's affliction are enslaved to a life of spiritual darkness. They are caught in a constant battle between their true selves and the false realities that have been created by the witch's manipulation. They may feel as though they are constantly fighting to stay afloat, unable to move forward or break free from the grip of negativity and fear. This spiritual bondage keeps them from experiencing peace, joy, and the fullness of life that is meant to be their inheritance. The longer a person remains under the witch's influence, the more entrenched the affliction becomes. Spiritual oppression becomes normalized, and individuals may begin to accept their suffering as their reality. The witch knows this well. Through repeated attacks on the spirit, they can wear down a person's resistance until they no longer see themselves as deserving of spiritual freedom. In this way, the witch's power over the spirit grows, As the afflicted individual begins to accept the spiritual affliction as part of their life, resigning themselves to a life of despair. Moreover, spiritual affliction can be a communal experience. The witch's influence can spread within a family, a group, or even an entire community, creating a collective sense of spiritual oppression. As individuals are affected, their collective spirit becomes weighed down by negativity, fear, and confusion. This shared affliction prevents the group from moving forward in unity, as the spiritual bondage created by the witch holds everyone back from experiencing their full potential. In this way, the witch's influence is not just an individual matter, it extends to the broader environment, poisoning the spiritual atmosphere of entire communities. Breaking free from spiritual affliction requires a deep and intentional effort to reclaim one's spiritual health. It requires a return to truth, to the divine calling that has been obscured by fear, doubt, and despair. When a person recognizes the presence of spiritual affliction, they must take deliberate steps to break the hold that the witch has over their spirit. This often involves confronting the fears and lies that have been implanted, rejecting the false beliefs that have been planted, and re-establishing a connection with the divine source of strength. Prayer, meditation, and spiritual renewal are essential in this process. The power of the witch can be broken when the individual steps into the light of truth, rejecting the false narratives that have held them in bondage. It is also important to recognize that spiritual affliction is not a battle that must be fought alone. Those who are under the witch's influence must seek help from those who are spiritually strong, those who can support them in their journey toward healing. All collective prayer, support, and encouragement can provide the strength needed to break the chains of spiritual oppression. The witch's power thrives in isolation and secrecy, but when individuals come together in truth and unity, they can overcome the spiritual affliction and step into the freedom that is their rightful inheritance. Ultimately, spiritual affliction is a weapon used by the witch to distance individuals from their divine purpose and to keep them living in fear and despair. But through awareness, truth, and spiritual renewal, the chains can be broken and the individual can be freed from the grip of the witch's dark influence, reclaiming their peace, purpose, and spiritual power. In conclusion, the marks of a witch are not merely signs of individual malevolence, but manifestations of a deeper spiritual warfare at play. These forces, operating in secrecy and manipulation, seek to bind the spirit, disrupt peace, and deflect individuals from their divine purpose. But let us be clear, we are not helpless in the face of such opposition. The same power that created the heavens and the earth, the same divine authority that has set you on your purpose, is greater than any force that seeks to afflict or divide. We are called not to live in fear, but to recognize the spiritual authority that resides within us. To stand firm in our faith and purpose is to reject the lies, manipulation, and confusion that witches use to weaken us. We are destined for greatness, designed for purpose, and equipped to overcome every force that seeks to hold us back. The true power of a person is not in their circumstances, but in their ability to stand in the truth of who they are and whose they are. The moment you recognize the affliction, the moment you discern the disruption, the moment you uncover the unseen agenda is the moment you take your power back. And remember, it is not by our might or power that we stand, but by the Spirit that lives within us, which is greater than anything in this world. So rise up. Refuse to be bound. Refuse to be deceived. Refuse to allow the peace of your soul to be disrupted. Embrace the fullness of your divine purpose and walk in the authority that has been given to you. For greater is He that is in you than any force that would dare to stand against you. And in that power you will not only overcome the witch's influence, but walk in the freedom and purpose you were always meant to live.